All right, good evening. We have 6:30. I'm Mayor Tome here to call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council regular meeting for Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone we are using a Zoom interface for some of the staff to participate and also the public. We've reduced the numbers of people in here to emphasize the need for social distancing, so we appreciate all the people that have submitted comments in advance of the meeting via email. With that, Pat, could we please take a roll call?
Gray,
Present.
McCabe,
Here.
Pfeifferone,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
Tome,
Here.
all present.
If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. This meeting has been noticed in accordance with all state statutes and local ordinances. Next item is to approve the agenda. Before we approve the agenda, I wanted to discuss with council. We have 12 people signed up for citizen correspondence and communication this evening, and we also had 3 people that had logged into the Zoom for citizen comment, we believe. So did we want to just leave this at a 3-minute limit per participant? Are we okay with that, or do we need to limit the aggregate total that we have for citizen comment? Are there any opinions from the council?
3 minutes is
Go
fine.
ahead, Trina.
Yeah, I'm comfortable keeping the 3-minute limit.
Okay. All right, so we will have a 3-minute limit per participant. We will call the people that signed up in order on the sheet in person first, and then after that we will have the Zoom participants that signed in at the appropriate time. Again, thanks to all who did take the time to send emails to council members and myself since the meeting last week. We did receive those. I forwarded all of my emails to the clerk so she could share those with council members as well, but thank you for doing that in advance of the meeting to reduce the numbers in attendance here. The first person that I have signed up, actually we need to approve the agenda first, sorry.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. We'll move on to correspondence and communication. Then again, the first person that I have signed up in person here this evening is John Walz, W-A-L-Z. If you could please walk up to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Thanks for letting me talk. My name is John Waltz. I'm here to talk about the Christopher Columbus statue. I'm not a resident of the city of Columbus, but I reside just outside the city and have been a member of the community since 1993. I'm a member of Columbus Council 1609 of the Knights of Columbus and a member of the committee to make recommendations to the council on any action we offer regarding the statue of Christopher Columbus. The KCs take a special interest in preserving the statue, currently located on the west side of Columbus, where it has resided since about 1985. Knowing of some of Columbus's history, Christopher Columbus's history, I believe he was a real hero. A contemporary of his, Bartolomeo de las Casas, quoted Columbus's exact words on the first day of his landing, quote, "In order that we might win good friendship, because I know that there are people who could better be freed and converted to our holy faith by love rather than by force, etc., unquote. He also made a log entry on December 5th, 1492, stating, quote, "And I say that your highnesses," that would be Ferdinand and Isabella, "ought not to consent that any foreigner do business or set foot here except Christian Catholics, since this was the end and the beginning of the enterprise, that it should be for the enhancement and glory of the Christian religion, nor should anyone who is not a good Christian come to these parts," unquote. Now history is being rewritten. I would think everyone here would agree that for about 200 years, the United States has been one of the most desired destinations of oppressed people. If we now accept the alleged revisionist history being promoted and given to our kids and destroy the icons of and our understanding of our heritage, it will take a long time, perhaps never, to see our country flourish again as it has in the past. We, the undersigned officers and members of Council 1609 of the Council Knights of Columbus, hereby indicate our sentiment regarding the City of Columbus's action regarding the statue. We believe that the best action is to let the statue stay where it is. If that's not acceptable, then we hope that we could become the caretakers of the statue to be stored or placed as the council will decide at future KC meetings. It is to be understood that although many knights have signed this paper, no official action or recommendation has been made by the whole council except for a committee that has been appointed, of which I am a member of that committee. Also note that Mr. Dan Amato, a co-signer of this document, is a KC member and is the one living person who is most responsible for the creation of this particular statue and who most financially supported it and who was responsible for entrusting ownership of the statue to the City of Columbus in 2012. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walls. Mr. Walls, I believe, submitted this information to all the council members that you're referring to during your comments.
I don't hear well, but yes, I did give
Okay.
everybody a copy of that. Well, did you have a question?
Nope, I just wanted to
Thank you.
just acknowledge that. Thank you. Okay, the next person we have up is Cora Dahl. Cora, if you could walk up to the podium, please state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Cora Dahl. I live on N1345 Voss Drive, Columbus, Wisconsin. So my family has been here since the 1850s. Personally, I've only been here for 16 years. But I've learned a lot in those 16 years from my friends, my family, and the amazing teachers at the Columbus School Districts. Firstly, I have learned that Columbus is an amazing town, full of friendly people and kind people. Wherever you go, you'll be met by one smiling, friendly face. 2, Columbus represents years of suffering. He brought diseases that killed 90% of Native people. And crew members on his ship, like Michael D. Kunu, has written letters detailing the rape and torture of Native American women, which was just the start of many, many years of mistreatment of Native Americans in our countries, such as the Trail of Tears, reservations, and whitewashing most of their culture. And I've learned that kindness and compassion has never come short in our town. And this is what we need to show and remove the statue. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, I believe, is it Skip Zeideman? If you could please state your name and address at the microphone. Thank you.
Chip Tiedemann, W4536 Burke Drive, Ryle, Wisconsin. I like the first speaker. I'm not a member of the Columbus community. I've been here since 1990. My kids went to Columbus High School, Columbus Grade School, and we didn't seem to have a problem with Christopher Columbus back then. I guess what I'm concerned about is if we take this statue down, then what's going to happen with our history? I've got a granddaughter in this town. At some point, she's got to learn something about our history. If we take it all away, we're not going to have anything. Now, I'm looking at a bunch of young people here that don't pay taxes, that I'm aware of, don't vote, and yet they're having a sway on this committee. And I can't get my head around that. We got to get this under control and make sure that that statue stays where it needs to stay. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. All right, next we have Frank Rolke. Frank, if you could please state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Frank Rolke. I currently reside at 876 Warner Street. I'm a recent graduate of Columbus High School, and I'm a proud voter and taxpayer in the Columbus District. I spoke at length at the Committee of the Whole last week at the morality of the statue. I'd like to continue that discourse briefly at the moment. As for the morality of the Christopher Columbus statue, Christopher Columbus stands for oppression and slavery and countless mistreatments of the native people. And to those who say that it's revisionist history and that we are, in danger of losing that which made our country because we're just going to erase everything that made it, I would like to point out that there were once people who said, well, if we erase the morality of slavery, what will become of our country? Our economy will collapse. If we do away with Jim Crow, if we do away with honor to Confederate soldiers, are we just erasing history? Are we just going to pretend like these people were bad? No, we're not pretending they are. I'm sorry, but I'm not. I currently have a source pulled up on my phone from one of Christopher Columbus's own journals from his expedition, and I quote, "As soon as I arrived in the Indies, on the first island in which I found, I took some of the natives by force in order that they might learn and might give me information." Another quote, "They ordered all persons 14 years or older to collect a quantity of gold every 3 months. When they brought it, they were given copper tokens to hang around their necks. Indians found without a copper token had their hands cut out and bled to death," end quote. I'm sorry, this is not revisionist history. It is history. Now I've spoken my piece on the morality of the statue, but I would like to speak now at the practicality of the statue. Whether or not you love it or you hate it, the fact of the matter is it is irresponsible to keep it where it is. It resides on Department of Transit property. It is not legal to keep it where it is. Now we can be responsible and move it. Whether or not you want to, the fact of the matter is it has to go. We can move it and be proactive and make good use of the time and effort and energy that has already been expended on this matter, or we can do what's already been done. We can push it into the future, be irresponsible. We can procrastinate. We can expend more time and effort and energy onto this subject, when in reality, it's going to have to be moved eventually anyway. As to where, who knows? Whether you want it, it doesn't matter. It has to move. Now, once again, we can act now and take advantage of the time that we've expended and make room on Columbus's plate to address issues such as perhaps a global pandemic, to address ways in which we can help our community against COVID-19, or we can use our time, our energy, and our people to debate an issue that isn't debatable, to keep a statue where it is for a short time, only to have it moved later. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Peter Kalin. Pete, if you could walk up to the podium, just state your name and address, please.
Peter Kalin, 551 West Harrison Street, Columbus, Wisconsin. I came to Columbus in 1968 as a history teacher, and I'm going to make some comments because I was appalled by some of the comments I heard at the Committee of the Whole. When I did graduate work in history, I had a professor who said, history is written about a point in time at a point in time. And what he's saying then is what we're looking at today, we're looking at a point in time, studying a point in time. Yeah, and that's very important. Are we rewriting history? There was in the field of history, revisionist history. Why does history get rewritten? A lot of reasons. We find new documents. We find new interpretations. We do additional research. All of these things have an impact on how history changes. We all have biases. There's comments about Columbus. Columbus was a exceptional navigator. He was a lousy governor. Slavery. Did slavery exist in the Americas before Columbus? Yes. Indian tribes did it quite extensively. Bringing disease to the Americas. Was that intentional or was it not intentional? We have our biases. We review history. There's another field of history where some people are deniers. You'll find people who have said that the Holocaust didn't exist. You know, I've been to Dachau, I've been to Auschwitz, and yet you have people denying that it ever took place. I think Columbus was neither a saint nor a sinner. And what I'm a little concerned with is we're taking the two extremes. I think truth is probably somewhere in the middle. And I think we should be aware of that middle. If I was writing a history of COVID-19 right now, I could write a book and say it was a Chinese disease that was made in a laboratory and then spread throughout the world. And some people would say, you're right, that's history, right on. I could write and say that it happened in a marketplace in China and spread. I could have people say, yep, you're right on, that's the way it happened. Both of those would be history. So we just have to remember and not take the extremes. I think the legacy of Columbus is somewhere in the middle.
Thank you, Mr. Kalin. Up next, Pete Adams. Pete, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Can you remind me what the time limit is?
3 minutes.
My name is Pete Adams. I live at 876 Warner Street. So I guess I'll start out by saying we're living in a transformational period of American history. After years of not dealing with our national original sin of slavery, a multi-generational and multicultural movement has taken root to look squarely at our past without flinching. In doing so, this movement seeks to gift future generations a more perfect union. The discussion before us is our city statue of Christopher Columbus. While he is not an American hero, the dichotomy of Christopher Columbus illustrates the broader discussion on race in America. Most people were taught that Columbus proved that the world was round and was a heroic navigator. If his story ended there, a statue in his honor is indeed warranted. His story continues, however. Upon arriving in the Caribbean, Columbus's first impression of the indigenous people, forgive my pronunciation, the Arawaks, is that they would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them all and make them do whatever we want. And indeed, he went island to island to enslave these people. One argument to keep the statue is that Columbus brought Christianity to the Caribbean. Columbus himself uses Christianity as a shield for the enslavement of indigenous people when he remarked, "Let us, in the name of the Holy Trinity, go on sending all the slaves that can be sold." And as stated before, in his quest for gold, if you did not meet the quota, he would mutilate the people, and their hands would be tied around their neck. He also captured the native women as sex slaves for his crewmen, some as young as 9 years old. There is nothing Christian about Columbus's words or deeds in the Caribbean. The dehumanization of the indigenous people was recorded by the Spanish priest, again forgive my pronunciation, Bartolomé de las Casas. In one instance, he noted that 2 of these so-called Christians met 2 Indian boys one day, each carrying a parrot. They took the parrots and for fun beheaded the boys. These so-called Christians were Columbus's men. So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead. So another argument is, where does it stop? Do we go all the way to the founding fathers? And one of the things that's hard to square with is that, yes, some of our founding fathers owned slaves, but they also foresaw an instance in which the institution would be no more. If there's any divinity in any governmental document, it surely exists in the words, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States." In order to create a more perfect union, the definition of "we the people" grew to include white women and then grew to include men and women of all colors and creeds. These achievements took time to realize, but each generation did its part to form a more perfect union. Our state's motto is simply forward. We have a chance to decide what is best represents our city. Is it a man who was a slave trader, participated in genocide, as well as being a navigator? By removing the statue and adding more context to it, we would not be erasing history. We would simply be moving our city, and in some small way, the country forward.
Thank you. Up next, we have Abby Adams.
My name is Abby Adams, and I live at 876 Warner Street, Columbus, Wisconsin. All right. Council members, I wanted to talk to you in the community today because of the petition I created a few weeks ago. I just want to clarify a few things. It was never my intention to erase our history of Christopher Columbus in the early parts of our nation. In fact, it was quite the opposite. My goal has always been to provide historical context for the statue. I think it's become more and more evident that in our community, many have outdated knowledge about Christopher Columbus and view him as heroic. My goal with moving this statue would be to hopefully educate those who don't understand the atrocities that the man committed. The truth is, Columbus treated indigenous people horribly. Even if it wasn't necessarily him directly, under his leadership, early colonizers set a horrible precedent for how natives would be treated for centuries to come. That cannot be disputed. Some of you have also been questioning the validity of my petition. When I created it, I posted it on one of the Columbus chatter websites, while one of my friends, Cora, who's here today, posted it on another. We can't truly tell you if every single person on that list is actually from Columbus, but I can tell you that a majority most likely are residents or go to school or work within the city. I also personally know many people who signed the petition in different cities, therefore it was presented as not from Columbus when they actually do live in the city of Columbus. I'm sure the petition to keep the statue has the same exact issue. Thank you, council members. I know you have a major decision to make tonight, but I urge you to stand with me and the 2,000 people who have signed the petition and prove that Columbus, Wisconsin stands for equality and is willing to make change happen. Thank you.
Up next, we have Jordan Denny. Please state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Jordan Denny, 106 Vista Circle, and in all honesty, I was confused by this sheet and accidentally signed up. However, I do have a couple counter-arguments that I feel should be presented here today. So first of all, in regards to erasing history, I don't think that taking down a statue that paints a figure in a purely positive light is erasing history. I think erasing history is that me, someone who considers myself to be a bit of a history buff, cannot name the peoples that he met with when he first arrived here, and I cannot even name off the top of my head the peoples who inhabited Columbus before America moved in. Additionally, the story of Christopher Columbus, whether good or bad, is taught to children for the first 18 years of their life, almost every single year. I don't think anyone's going to be forgetting him positively or negatively anytime soon. And this city has a decently well-advertised museum for the man, and I believe that that brings up his name far more often than the statue that most people forgot existed until this petition was brought up. And guess that's all I got. All right, thank you.
All right, up next we have Carol Belfons. I think I'm reading that right. 103 Summit Court?
That's me.
Okay.
I have nothing to say.
Oh, okay. Next up then we have Jack Sanderson. Jack, if you could please approach the podium, state your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Jack Sanderson, 113 Dawn Court. I too submitted a petition and itemized the folks that they came from. We counted 221 signatures from the city of Columbus. If that is representative of what you can get on this digital petition process, I might suggest then the same proration might be also applied to the other petition, and that the majority of folks who signed the petition do not reside here. I have the numbers here. 54 people from Beaver Dam side, 30 people from Fall River, 43 people from Sun Prairie. I had almost 1,000 people to sign a petition all across the country. That ratio may also apply to the other petition. But my primary objective here right now is to enforce the fact that we ought to be talking about Columbus's moral character in this heated election year right now. They just tore down the Columbus statute in New York, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. Columbus statutes are in parallel across the country. Taking one down under duress, under political stress and threat, is about as amoral and cowardice as taking down the flag because you think it might offend somebody. It's a political election year. And as the president said on July 4th at Mount Rushmore, he says they are coming after our statutes. They're coming after the founding fathers. They're coming after everything that is American heritage. It's not about Columbus's bad decisions 500 years ago at a time in which we cannot even conceive of. Columbus was raised at a time when they were fighting the Moors in Spain, in which was a constant a time of war. We need to stand up. Now, if you want to take it down next year after thoughtful study, or 2 years from now after a committee takes a lot of review, but to be pressured into the idea that we need to do something now, there is no pressure out there on the right-of-way concern. All the road work is done. There will not be doing any road work or right-of-way work out there for the next 20 or 30 years. But to take it down to now is to basically surrender to the mob. The mob is pushing this. It is the wrong time to do this. Do not surrender to the mob. This is a political decision in the middle of a heated election year. I would kindly ask and suggest you set up a study group and table it for a year or two until it can be thoughtfully dealt with on a time. Do not take this down under the threat of mob action. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Quinn Altman. Quinn, just state your name and address, please.
My name is Quinn Altman. I do not reside in Columbus, but I recently just graduated from the high school, and I went to the school here for I think 13 years of schooling. Today, many of us stand here and argue whether or not the statue of Christopher Columbus should remain in our town. My friends and I are tired of being told we're uneducated, we're just kids, or that we don't know anything. We've heard that time and time again as we've been here arguing our opinion as to why the statue should be taken down. We are done with being told this and how things are and how they always will be. We're tired of being told to sit quietly because the older generation might know better. My friends and I saw the Black Lives Matter movement and so many young people fighting for what they believed in. This movement inspired us to press the issue of justice for the Native American population. My friends and I decided that we needed to make the necessary change to move the city into the 21st century. We cannot wait around any longer to progress the social changes needed in America, and I believe that the small towns of America and of Wisconsin are overdue for a definite social change. The removal of this statue not only removes an eyesore from the public display, but also shows the Native Americans within our community that we do not tolerate honoring a man who is responsible for their misfortune and plight. Council members, please, tonight I urge you to move this city into the 21st century and to move us forward. Thank you.
All right, the last person we have on the list is Marcus Meyer. Marcus, please approach the podium. Just state your name and address.
All right, good evening. Marcus Meyer, 256 Maple Avenue. It's going to be pretty short and sweet here. It's a statute. If it needed to move, it would have had to move when the road construction happened. So the argument that the state needs it moved is not just in void, okay? Let's worry about our economy that Columbus Common Council keeps failing on. Let's get something done that matters. Leave the statue alone. Vote no.
All right, we've gone through everyone we have signed up in person. We had a list for Zoom. Let's see. First person signed up on Zoom was Nellie S.
Hi, this is Nellie Sujak speaking.
Hi, Nellie.
I would like to add a couple points on the statue heading into Columbus. I'm a millennial here living in Columbus at 100 East James Street. I hear what other people say about taking down the statue. I understand where they're coming from, but I have to agree with Jack Sanders about this is not the time or place at the moment to discuss an urgent matter of taking down the statue. I know we have a lot of monumental things that mean a lot to people, but for instance, take a piece of art. There's a lot of art out here that offends a lot of people. Are we going to go after the pieces of art also? No. So I don't agree with taking down the statue. Thank you.
Thank you, Nellie. All right. Pamela was not going to speak, so next would be Christine Adams. Christine, can you hear us? Okay. Christine, can you hear me? Okay, she texted us that she has no comment, okay? So she's just watching the meeting. Last, that we had Eric Lukasevich. Eric, did you want to make a public comment?
I did not sign up for public comment at this time.
Okay. All right. So we've gotten through both lists. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda this evening, we have the Council and Committee of the Whole minutes for June 16th, 2020, and also the minutes for the special meeting from June 30th, 2020, as well as applications for operators licenses for the term of July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2022. I believe we had 7 applicants. Mackenzie Blomer, Jeffrey Brozek, Emily Shawsey, Rachel Kaler, Rebecca McGee, Cassandra Newman, and William C. Wood. Unless there's any discussion on the consent agenda, I'd ask for a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, consent agenda is approved. Move on to new business item number 1. Number 1 is to take nominations for the vacant District 3 alderperson. This was discussed at the Committee of the Whole. All of the candidates who submitted for the vacancy came in, and there was some questions that were offered by the council. I believe we agreed that we would take a nomination and have a second to confirm that nomination, see how many nominations we have, and then move forward with a procedure for a vote on item number 2. Is that correct? All right. All right, I will open up the floor for any nominations for the District 3 alderperson.
I'd like to nominate Peter Adams for District 3.
Is there a second for that nomination?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second for Mr. Adams. Ian?
I would like to nominate J.D. Milburn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a nomination and a second for J.D. Milburn. Are there any other nominations for the vacancy in District 3?
I'd like to nominate Eric Lukasevich.
Okay, is there a second for that nomination? It's the opinion of the chair that there's no second for the nomination. All right, we have 2 nominations. Any further? Can we move on to new business item number 2? All right, we will move on to new business item number 2. Consider and take action on the vacancy for the District 3 alderperson. My understanding is we were going to have secret ballots for the council members. That will. We cannot. Okay, we've done that before. Okay.
You put your name on a paper ballot and submit it that way if you wish.
Yes, I think everyone could, in private, put their vote down, and then those votes are read publicly with who made that vote, so
Okay.
that.
Okay. Sorry, wrong terminology.
Sorry.
I believe Pat's going to cut up some paper. My understanding is that we would cast, everybody would get 1 vote, write the name of which nominee they would prefer on the piece of paper, and we'll take a count of those votes to see if we come up with a majority. With 2 candidates, we should have 1 with 3 and 1 with 2 is my, or 4 and 1, but I think we have to find a majority somewhere in there, so. Go ahead, Ian.
To clarify, since it can't be secret, we also need to put our name with our vote. So,
Yeah, the 2 important pieces of information is your name, and then also who you are casting a vote for.
Okay. I do not get one. Just set them out and Pat can collect them. I think you do normally.
Katie Ryan voted for Pete Adams. Trina Reed voted for J.D. Milburn. Alder Gray voted for J.D. Milburn. Paul Piperone, Peter Adams. Mike McCabe, Peter Adams. So it's 3 for Peter and 2 for J.D.
3 votes for Pete and 2 for J.D. All right, I believe we have an appointee. Congratulations to Pete Adams. We will, I believe we have a space, and we can also have you sworn in between meetings if you decide to participate for the Committee of the Whole this evening. Thank you, and thank you to all the applicants that did submit their names for the vacancy. It's nice to have 4 candidates to start with to go through this process, so thank you. Number 3, we can table. There is no need for action on that. I did not get the appointments listed in the public packet, so did not want to take any action on those this evening. Number 4, consider and take action on acceptance of donation to Police Department from Countryside Ford, something that was reviewed at the Committee of the Whole. Police Chief Dennis Meister sent us the information that there's a $750 donation from Countryside Ford that he would like to use for a Citizens Police Academy if possible, but due to COVID, he was open to other suggestions from the council about trying to do something that could be something that benefits the entire community. So unless there's any questions or discussion on that, I entertain a motion to accept that donation.
Alder Gray moves to accept the donation by Countryside Ford to the Police Department in the amount of $750.
Second by Reed.
All All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the donation from Countryside Ford in the amount of $750. Is there any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes, and thanks again for that donation to the police department, Countryside Ford. Number 5, consider and take action on a Class A liquor license for Landmark Services Cooperative doing business as Senex Convenience Store. We did just approve a Class B, I believe, recently for them. Class A? Class A beer, okay, and this is for Class A liquor. It looks like we have a completed application for a new license. The premises description is new for the alcohol, which states that it will be displayed only on a dedicated liquor shelf on sales floor. In direct sight of registers, additional products will be placed in a closed closet located by the back room with employee access only and sold from the dedicated shelf and scanned at registers. The application is complete and there are no known violations. So are there any questions on that application? If there are no questions, I'll entertain motion to approve the Class A liquor license for Landmark Services.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to approve the Class A liquor license at 501 Park Avenue, Senex.
Alder McCabe seconds.
All right, we have a motion from Pfeiffer, second by McCabe, to approve the Class A liquor license for Landmark Services Cooperative doing business as Senex Convenience Store. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Number 6, consider and take action on the Plan Commission recommendation for a home occupation at 556 Waterloo Street. This was brought to the Committee of the Whole about a month ago with the recommendation from the Plan Commission. The council tabled it back for further discussion at another Committee of the Whole with some concerns that I think were, for the most part, addressed. If I remember the consensus of the council at the last Committee of the Whole, it was about the signage. That I believe the narrative in the application stated that there would be no sign needed. No sign will be used outside. Which is on the narrative for the applicant, but it is actually stated in the code that they could use a sign in the yard on the exterior of the residence. These signs may not exceed 2 square feet in total area. So am I remembering that correctly, that there was a 5th item that we wanted to add to this as a restriction, that there would be no sign permitted?
Yes.
Okay. Unless there's any further questions or discussion, I think someone from the council will need to make a motion to approve the recommendation for the Plan Commission with the addition that no outdoor signage would be allowed for the home occupation permit.
Alder Pfeiffer will make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for the home occupation at 556 Waterloo Street.
Ryan, second.
Just a quick question. So the narrative that's coming from us, not from the person opening.
Pardon?
The narrative here, this is not just coming from him saying that it's not going to happen. This is the city saying that that's not going to be allowed.
Plan Commission.
The page that says narrative?
Yeah.
Business owner, no architect involved. I thought that was from the applicant. Am I wrong? Okay. Matt's available. Matt, could you clarify that for us? Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, the narrative was provided by the applicant.
Okay, it was provided
Right.
by the applicant.
So my issue is this is still allowing to have a sign. He's just saying that he doesn't intend to have a sign.
Correct.
And that's what we wanted changed, and it didn't change.
No, we can change it right now, but it just needs to be made part of the motion because the recommendation only included 4 restrictions on it and the sign wasn't addressed. So if you want that to be part of the conditional use permit, you have to add that restriction at this point.
Okay, so we just need a new motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Could you withdraw your motion if you're willing, Paul?
Alder Pfeiffer will withdraw the motion.
Who had the second? Could you withdraw?
Ryan, I withdraw my second.
Okay. Ian, did you want to present a motion?
Alder Gray moves to approve task order 2020-0.
Nope, it's the one before
sorry,
that.
I'm reading the wrong one. One line down. All right, Alder Gray moves to approve the Plan Commission recommendation for home occupation at 556 Waterloo Street with the added condition that no signage will be used at the property.
All right.
Ryan,
Pepperell.
second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit recommendation from the Plan Commission for a home occupation permit at 556 Waterloo Street with all of the recommendations from the Plan Commission, including no signage allowed through the conditional use permit. That's added by the council. Is there any further discussion or questions on this? If there are none, can we please take a roll call, Pat?
McCabe,
Aye.
Pepperone,
Aye.
Reed,
Nay.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
unanimous.
Trina actually voted nay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Motion passes.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to item number 7. Consider and take action on task order number 2020-07 from Rupert Milkie for GIS services. Rupert Milkie is our city engineering service. This was brought to the Committee of the Whole for review. The reason for this task order is for updates and revisions to the city GIS system because of the comprehensive plan review that the city is going through right now. Seems pretty straightforward. Any questions on this one? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve that task order.
I can make the right motion this time. Alder Gray moves to approve task order 2020-07 from Rupert Milkie for GIS services.
Alder Pipeford will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve task order 2020-07 from Rupert Milkie for GIS services in the amount of $1,500. Is there any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, could we please take a roll call, Pat?
Pepperone,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Move on to item number 8, consider and take action on delegated municipal authority for building inspection. We have general engineering for our inspection services, and due to some code changes at the end of 2019, or new ordinance adoption as well, one of the things that we can now do locally is to have our inspector review things up to 50,000 cubic feet, from my understanding. Currently, that's at 25,000 feet. So approving this will allow our local building inspector to inspect more of those commercial buildings, which we believe is less expensive and provide a quicker review time than the state review process. Unless there's any questions, I'd entertain a motion from the council to, oh, sorry, go ahead,
Question
Trina.
from Reed. Just wanted to make sure that the local inspectors are still expected to meet all the requirements of the state inspector, that everything's pretty much to the same level of expectations.
Absolutely, yep.
Excellent. I didn't want to just go ahead with something less expensive and quicker for the sake of less expensive and quicker.
Sure, yep, that makes sense. That's a good question, Trina, but yeah, I believe the obligations are exactly the same as what the state has to do. Just doing it locally makes it a little bit quicker, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have to have individuals trained in-house to carry out the inspections. So it will be just like the state doing it, except GEC can do it in-house. So their permit fees will be cheaper and their turnaround time will be quicker.
Thank you, Matt. All right, is there any other questions or discussion on item number 8? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the delegated municipal authority for the building inspection,
Alder McCabe will make a motion to approve the delegated municipal authority for building inspection up to, was it 50,000 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Square feet?
Ryan,
Cubic feet.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the delegated municipal authority for building inspections up to 50,000 cubic feet. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Motion passes. Item number 9 should be relatively easy. That is, consider and take action on the site plan for the Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park. I believe Matt's been working with the Oddfellows. There was some back and forth communication with them about the type of plantings, et cetera, that they were going to be using out there, and it sounds like they have a volunteer from the DNR that's helping them with recommendations to try some different things and look at different pricing. So this is the updated conceptual map, kind of outlines the project, which shows the potential for a canoe kayak launch out at the new park or new recreational area that's being developed out on River Road next to the wastewater treatment plant. Are there any questions on this, Trina?
Oh, I was just wondering if the trail is supposed to be put in fairly early on the project, or is that something for later?
I don't know that, Matt, do you have any idea of the timeline of how they're going to do the parts and pieces here? I think this year is just all tilling, isn't it?
There we go. It really is going to start with the butterfly garden and the other prairie grasses that they're going to be planting there. And I know the other item that they're going to that they want to fundraise for immediately is the kayak / canoe launch down there. The trail, I think, is going to be a work in progress, and I think at first it's probably just going to start with just clearing an area where the trail could go, and then from there identifying what the cost would be if they wanted if it was going to be like gravel, crushed limestone type of trail. But right now it's more just we have the general area where it's going to go and start getting brush and things like that away from there. Not anything where it's erosion, but it's just down limbs and whatnot. And once they have that, then I think we'll have a better idea what the budget would be for a trail.
Thank you.
Any other questions while we have Matt there? I see none. If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the site plan for the Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park.
Alder Ryan, I make a motion to approve the site plan for the Butterfly Trails Volunteer Park.
Reed seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the site plan for the park. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, on to the meat and cheese for the evening. Number 10 is consider and take action on the Christopher Columbus statue. Obviously, we had a special meeting last week that kind of began the community discussion here at the city council level, and we have it on the agenda this evening. I believe the council agreed last week that we should, rather than kick it around the committee, to bring it up for potential action, even though the action's not outlined here. I want to recognize that I certainly have received a lot of emails in the past week from people from both sides of the issue. So thank you for the people that have taken the time to contact us to let us know their concerns or thoughts on this. Obviously, we've had people show up this evening for public comment, etc. There was a petition that was submitted to the clerk today. I think we should probably address that with the city attorney to kind of let us know about the validity of that petition as well as the original petition, so the council's aware of the weight that those carry, or lack thereof, I guess.
It's more a lack thereof situation. I mean, the petitions are whatever you want to make them. Sorry. Excuse me. The petitions are whatever you want to make of them. Neither of them fall under the statutory requirement for direct legislation. So there is nothing that you must do with either one of the petitions. They're there for your advice. They're there for your to influence you however you want them to influence you. But there's no formal action that needs to be taken based on either one of the petitions that are filed with you tonight.
Thank you. I think once we had the special meeting last week, that was the intent to open up this topic for debate in the city of Columbus, knowing that there's a petition out there. The media obviously has an interest in this. So I think it's appropriate that we're having a discussion in public with people from both sides of this issue. Again, I think the focus, I've received letters from people from out of state. I've received media requests from people from out of state. There is a lot of focus on statues and flags and other things in the United States right now. So I appreciate everybody that has offered comments and concerns. What I am concerned about is, how do you find consensus in all of this? How do you count emails? How do you count petitions that really don't have any enforceability, I guess, for the council? It puts an extremely large amount of pressure on 5 members of the city council to take action on something that that's in the news every evening. So I think that we should probably have some discussion. If there's any questions about this, I do think that the community needs to understand what consensus is kind of coming from this council before we take any rigid action. That's just me. I don't have a vote in this, so.
Like yourself, I've also gotten several dozen, if not more, emails throughout just this weekend on both sides. So I found it very difficult. I will find it very difficult to pick a side that is more than the other as far as numbers goes. So what I was wondering, what would it look like if we were to think about a referendum on it? I don't know. I'm still new, so I'm just asking.
I think that's a fair question. I mean, Kyle and Attorney Johnson can both explain that process.
A referendum is a possibility. If you are thinking about doing a referendum, I will turn to Pat as to the timing. You're too late to do it for the fall primary election in August, but you probably have enough time to do it for the November general election. I believe there's a 70-day advance timeline, if I remember right. But you may do a referendum if you wish. The issue there is, will it be advisory or will it be binding? Advisory referendums are similar to the petitions that you have in front of you. It doesn't force you to do anything with the information you're going to obtain. And the bigger question with the referendum is exactly how are you going to word the referendum? Because in a situation like that, words matter. And it'll be up to the city council to decide exactly how that question is framed. And is it a single question? Is it a multi-part question? Because you have the, does the statute need to move is one question, but the bigger question, as long as I'm standing here, your bigger question is what happens next? Where is it moving? Who's paying for it? How much money is this going to cost? All of those issues need to be figured out somehow. Do you put all of that to referendum, or do you just put the single question of the statute needs to be removed as your issue? So referendum is possible. What the wording is will be what you'll need to struggle with and have locked down before you go further.
To expand on that a little further, Paul, if I could, please, there's probably a difference between the referendum could probably be issued by the city council, and the verbiage of the question would have to be worked out by the council, but the public would also have the ability to go through that process provided by the code to get it on the ballot as well if they met the requirements. Is that correct?
You are referring to following the direct legislation route. That is an option. As I mentioned before, neither one of the petitions that have been filed with you so far are formatted or filed under the direct legislation statute. If one of those were to come before you in the proper time frame and in the proper form and be certified by the city clerk, that question goes directly onto the ballot if it is not approved by the city council first.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Attorney Johnson on that while he's up, or?
How much time would there be, would we have to get it on the ballot?
I checked with the city clerk, but I do believe it's 70 days. I mean, the question has to be finalized and ready to go 70 days before the election actually takes place.
So in this case, that would need to be approved and submitted by August 25th.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Johnson. Ian?
So, like I alluded to during our special meeting last week, I don't believe that this is something that needs to go to referendum or even should. When we're speaking about civil rights and things of that nature, it is meant for the minority. To expect our community, I would personally hope that we would get a majority opinion and a majority vote for its removal, but to expect that and rely upon that is simply not a good way to go. I mean, if we would have waited for a majority of people to end slavery, it would have never happened. Nothing happens if we wait for a minority to have a majority opinion. It just doesn't work that way. I also don't believe that this is an issue that we should be taking up all of our time and that we should be dragging out for months on end and just continue the animosity and the conversation going on this. I think it's best to end it and move forward. I personally would like to see the city maintain ownership of the statue in the interim, but move it to a safe location until we can decide the best use of it or where it may go permanently.
Alder Pipefone concurs with Alder McCabe in the sense that it's too hard to discern one side versus another in the legitimacy of the count or who lives where or whatnot. I think just by simple math, it'll work out on a referendum, yes or no, and the majority will win.
Trina?
I would definitely not be for the referendum route at this time in history. I don't want our city to be a type of backwards joke to the world. That is simply how it would be seen. It wouldn't even matter how the results went. It would be something for the history books on our lack of forward thinking, our lack of care for humanity. It's just would be beyond unforgettable for the outside world. My heart has been broken by so many of the emails I've received. I know Columbus is better than this. We have to be better than this. Thank you.
Katie?
I also received a lot of emails in the last week, and I could probably split the issue 50-50. I don't think I had enough. I wanted to print them out, but I wouldn't even have had enough ink in my printer at home, I don't think, to actually physically see them all in a stack. I went back and forth, actually, over the weekend between the referendum idea and also just voting this evening. I think that Alder Gray makes a good point when he says we cannot wait for the minority to be the majority. I also think that nobody on this council has stated out loud in any meeting that I've attended that they want to destroy or dismantle the Christopher Columbus statue, nor has anybody on this council that I have heard say anything of the sort of that we want to erase history or fold. I just think that an enormous amount of time has already been spent on this issue. And I think putting the community through a referendum process might be too much for stretching it out for months and months. I believe that we were elected up here to make decisions for the people in this community. And on an issue as contentious as this, throwing it back at the community is something that I don't personally think that we should do. So I guess I am not for the referendum at this point. Thanks.
I think I might have changed my mind on this referendum myself. I got a specific email from a citizen that's Native American, and she said she almost didn't move here because of that statue, but they did. But it made me think, pause. I would really like to use the statue as a teaching opportunity, if we could somehow move it wherever, but make sure we, as a city, use this and put Christopher Columbus, his history in context, and use it as a teaching tool. I think the community could benefit from that.
Well, thank you all for at least speaking a little bit on this. Obviously, there's a lot of debate in the community between the last meeting and this, the emails, et cetera, and the attention that we're getting. I do agree with all of you on certain points and disagree on certain points. I do think the assumption that taking a vote this evening, unless you're extremely deliberative about what exactly is going to happen, I don't think this is going to go away. If we're going to be the caretakers of the statue and it does get removed, are we going to have something on the agenda next week that's going to ask us to do something else with the statue? I'm not really sure how all that's going to unfold. I personally like the idea of a referenda because you, although you have the choice to vote on this and take action, and it's your responsibility to do so, I've never seen in my 7.5 years here anything that's invoked this much feedback from the community. I do get it that it's an opportunity. We don't want to have the last statue of Christopher Columbus in the United States. I think there's some people that have said that. All I'm trying to do is give the thought that if you have the entire community voting, you have a result where no one can blame anybody for underrepresenting you or not listening to you. And I think that I've been involved in some contentious debates in my time on city council, and if you make one decision that someone doesn't like, suddenly every decision you make is incorrect after that. I'm only trying to protect the council to a certain degree, but the council has the ability to take any action it may desire on this issue this evening. That's the reality of it. So. Trina, sorry. Go ahead, Ian.
So I 100% understand the mayor's viewpoint. I'm still of mind that we need to take action on this tonight. I would still like to see us maintain temporary ownership, put it into storage until we can find the best use for it and have it removed. I totally understand that this is contentious, but that's also why I think it is our responsibility to act on it and not wait for a referendum. If there's a lot of people that don't like my decision on the matter, you know, if you're in my district, vote for someone else next time. But that's my belief. I'm not going to hide.
All right. Is there any further discussion or comments from the council, or is someone feeling like they want to make a motion? I just ask that if you make a motion that it's very deliberative, so we have some idea of what's happening, so the city has some direction on what the next steps are, what next questions may come up beyond that, as Attorney Johnson kind of had described earlier, so.
Alder Gray moves to have the statue removed while the city maintaining ownership of the statue temporarily until we can best decide its permanent use.
Alder Reed seconds.
We have a motion from Alder Gray, second by Reed, to remove the statue from its current location, that it will be stored and preserved until we can find another, I guess, receiver of the statue. Is that appropriate? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I see no further discussion on the motion. Pat, could you please take a roll call for us?
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Pifferone.
Nay.
Motion carries.
All right. All right, we'll move on to the city claims. City claims in the amount of $419,392,000.07. Unless there's any questions on the claims, I'll entertain a motion to approve them in the amount read.
Alder Gray moves to approve the claims in the amount of $419,392.07.
Alder Piper will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims in the amount read. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, roll call, please, Pat.
Ryan,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
McCabe,
Aye.
Pifferone,
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move on to report of city officers. Kyle, I'll let you jump in first so I can catch my breath.
All right,
Thank you.
sounds good. As many of you know, we've had the finance director vacancy for a few months now, and I did send an email, but wanted to repeat that on Monday, next Monday, we'll have Bob Geenan starting as our interim director, or not our interim, but our permanent finance director. Bob's got his bachelor's in accounting and more than 25 years of experience between state government, local government, and nonprofits. So we're very excited, and I think that's putting back an important piece of the puzzle. We were advised that the police contract, which is expiring in the next year, that the union notified us they'd like to negotiate. So we're in the preliminary stages of that, trying to get meetings set up and internally trying to meet to see what priorities we think we would like to work on. And we'll probably be meeting with the city council in closed session in 2 weeks to discuss any potential changes you might be interested in. But we'll be having more discussions coming forward. I was invited to speak at the Rotary 2 weeks ago, and that was a good opportunity to get out in the community and discuss some of the current priorities that we have, answer some questions, and I just wanted to mention that I appreciated the invitation, and they were very gracious in hosting. We also met, Zach and myself met with the school district representatives regarding our shared use agreement that covers the different fields and facilities that we share through our rec program and school programs. Had a really good meeting. There's a few questions that are outstanding that we're still going to look at, but it was a very positive meeting, and I just wanted to share that because that's an important relationship. Finally, I did get a chance to work with the rec director and pool manager as they develop some amended plans as they kind of keep going through their reopening. And as the pool operation advances, you're going to see a few changes. I think they address the radius and some of those items to tweak their operations. But everything that they've done so far has gone well operationally, and the staff seem to be managing it well. So I just wanted to let you know that there are some minor changes coming in that direction.
Thank you, Kyle. I didn't prepare much for this evening. I've had a busy week. I did want to thank all of the candidates that put their name in the hat again for the vacancy. as J.D. Milburn, Pete Adams, William Penterman, and also Eric Lukasavitz. Thank you for taking the time to submit your application, and congratulations to Pete Adams. Look forward to working with you. If you do want to get sworn in between the meetings, we've got a packet and a seat for you up here if you want to participate this evening. So that's all I had. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Alder Piper will make a motion to adjourn.
Alder Ryan, second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Stand adjourned. We'll take a short break and return with the committee of the whole. Thank you.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 7th, year 2020. The time is now 7:57 p.m. Pat, would you take the roll for us? Thank you.
Gray,
Present.
McCabe,
Here.
Piperone,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
Tome,
Here.
Adams,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Tonight's meeting has been noticed with local and state statutes and the proper ordinances. Number 3, I will take a motion to approve the agenda if there are no exceptions or amendments.
Alder Piper will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Cape seconds.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Agenda's approved. Citizen comments this evening. Do we have anybody signed up on Zoom or in the? I don't see anybody signed up at this time here in City Hall chambers, and I don't believe we all have anybody waiting in our teleconferencing citizen comment. So we'll go ahead and move to number 5, which is the committee minutes of the CHLPC from June 10th, 2020, and June 24th, 2020, a special meeting, as well as the committee minutes from the Columbus Water and Light Commission from May 21st of 2020. Any questions, comments on the committee minutes in our packets this evening? Seeing none, we'll move forward then to number 6, which is focused on the sale of a 1991 Ford Rescue truck. We have Chief Randy here with us this evening, and he's looks like he's gone through the process and offered the truck to department heads, and there was no interest, so he's looking to sell it on auction. Hi, Randy. Thanks for being with us tonight.
So everything's pretty straightforward there. We've used Wisconsin Surplus Online 3 times before in selling vehicles as well as other items. So we can put a minimum price on it that we'll accept so that if it comes in real low, we don't have to accept it. I'm hoping that we can get close to 10,000 on it.
Okay.
But I can set a minimum that we'll accept. And then, so let's say if we set a minimum bid that we would accept at 10,000, it comes in at 9,000, it doesn't mean we can't go back and say, okay, we'll take the 9,000. But if it comes in at ridiculously low, we don't have to accept it. But I'm pretty optimistic that we'll get a decent price going this route. And we've, like I said, we've sold 3 different vehicles previously using this site.
Okay. Any comments from council? Katrina?
Oh, no, I'm just glad to hear that a minimum price can be put on the auction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad that no one's going to offer $1 and we have to accept. So
Yeah, so
I'm
that's,
glad to hear about the minimum.
that's why we want to put a minimum price on. Another option would be not put a minimum price on, but then pending council or board action. So I would just soon put a minimum price on. That way then we know where we stand. We're looking at, according to their schedule, would have to wait until after the regular meeting in 2 weeks before we could do anything. And if they're looking at then at putting it on the following Monday, it would last for 2 weeks. It would come in on August 10th, would be the end of the auction. And there's a city council meeting at the 11th if we, had to go that route. But
I'm okay with just the minimum bid. I don't know how the rest of council feels about that. Sounds, the minimum bid in 10,000 being the number that we would want to stick to.
Yeah, I would totally be okay with a minimum bid and allow the chief to set whatever that minimum bid is. Us deliberating on what that should be is absolutely pointless. You know the value a lot better than any of us could ever pretend to.
Agreed.
So you should just set the value you believe in.
okay.
Trina?
Oh, yes, I'm also comfortable allowing the minimum to be set. I have no idea what the correct lowest number would be, and you wouldn't put 10,000 because that's what you're hoping for. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with letting Kane make his choice.
Alderpipe from Atkinshaw.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So I think we have consensus then to move forward to number 7. So that is the sale of the 1991 Ford Rescue proceeds to equip the new fire truck. So essentially, hopefully the proceeds that from the sale of the auction, whatever those proceeds are, will equip, he's asking will equip this new truck. Looks like several different items. So like a ladder, leaf blower, all of the different, first aid kits, plexiglass hinge, all sorts of different things that our new truck needs to be equipped with. Ian?
The only thing about that is I don't think we can just do it that easy. Like, that sounds like the easiest way to do it, but don't we have to take the don't we have to dispose of everything properly first? Like, we can't just automatically allocate money to something else. It's-
Are you asking about the asset
Right.
disposal funds?
Yeah. Like, it has to go into
Kyle,
like
you-
asset disposal funds, and then it can go back to that perhaps, but I don't think we can just say we're going to do that.
I think our normal practice has been when we would sell equipment like this, it would go back into the fund that's intended to purchase more equipment. My understanding, in talking with Randy, is that there was some discussion early on, knowing there would be loose goods and odds and ends not included in the purchase price, that we would take the funds from the sale and first pay those extra loose goods expenses, and then the remainder would go to the normal. It is something that the council would have latitude to make those decisions. We're not locked in where it has to every time follow an exactly same procedure. You just should have a really good reason why you're doing it different in this case and kind of articulate that.
I recall previous to purchasing the new fire truck, that we did have some discussion about that, or it was during the process while we were purchasing that truck. I remember you calling about all of these extra accessories that were going to be needed and how those things would be funded. Randy, so. Trina?
Oh, yes, we definitely used to have it set up so that goods sold by a department would go into that department's coffers for new purchases. So we really have some leeway on how we want to set it up if we want to make an exception to our current policy of having it go into a general fund. So we have choices. And I'm comfortable with the idea of having the sales of the loose goods go into the city share of new loose goods for the new truck. And then we can discuss what we would do with the remainder later, after we have an idea what the remainder, which hopefully exists, is.
Mayor Tom?
Just for clarification, I think maybe, Trina, what you were saying was previous to the asset disposal fund. That's where each department was kind of taking their assets and buying and selling them until it became a central fund. And so my understanding of the policy now is that if an asset is disposed of, that proceed goes into the asset disposal fund and can be spent out as with discretion of the council.
And then I'm asking if I could have the 5,100 out of that fund.
Correct.
What is the current fund balance in that? Do we have any idea, Kyle? I know that we did some stuff when Dave was here in the interim to spend down some stuff, and I don't know if that fund got hit.
Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Tonight,
But-
but I can send that out to you prior to the decision being made. Because we'll be funding it with more than we're requesting to take out, this would be fine. The other question I think becomes if, as this was, I think, discussed previously, in the process of getting the truck ordered and that lead up to it, the trucks in service and these expenses are incurred. So if we don't fund it with this, we probably have to find room in his budget, which there was no budget authority given to him to pay for these loose goods. So if we can't make it work this way, we do have to kind of try to massage the numbers on the fire department's overall budget to figure out how we're going to cover that unplanned expense.
Sure, yeah. I think if we have a balance, then it's not a problem. You can go through the process of the auction. If we have the fund balance in the asset disposal fund, the council can just take a vote and agree to release those funds to cover your expenses, and then whatever the old truck sells for just goes back into the asset disposal fund. So.
Yes.
Okay.
So to Ian's point, in a long roundabout way, yes. And it looks like half of I just wanted to point out, half of the cost of the total of the accessories needed for the truck, half of that will be paid by the rural fire group as well.
Yeah,
So that's why.
They'll
it's-
be invoiced for that other 5,100.
Exactly.
And they're aware of it.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I'm seeing consensus from council that this is, okay. All right, thank you, Randy.
Okay, thank you.
All right. moving on, we have number 8, Carrico Water Management Agreement. Let's see here. I don't know, do we have Amy Jo? Is that? Do you know, is Amy Jo?
Hello?
Oh, there she is. Hi, Amy Jo.
Hi.
Hi, Amy Jo. Carrico Water
Correct.
Program Renewal.
We are just looking at renewing our contract with Carrico for our water management program. We've had them for the past 6 years, and they're doing a great job with keeping our pool up and running and balanced.
Okay.
For those that are not familiar, what this does is it's the delivery of our chemicals throughout the season, and they come every other week to test our water, and they provide that to the state to let them know where we are at with the guidelines, answer questions, and they're on site if we need them.
Okay. So no complaints or disputes with the service as this far. Sounds like it's going well. Any questions from council? Ian?
Hey, Amy Jo, did anything major change in the contract from last year?
It did not.
Okay.
Everything is exactly the same as it has been for the last 6 years. The only thing that I would recommend is adding Kyle's name to the contract now, since he will be the one signing it.
I think that's probably a good idea. All right. Okay, thank you, Amy
Any
Jo.
other questions?
Any further questions? Mayor Tome?
Don't have
got your light on?
Not a specific question about the contract, but is it standard procedure for them to renew these contracts in April, Amy Jo? Has that changed in the past or not?
It is standard for them to do it in April, but from the time that I received it, we ended up getting a new representative, and it was sent to the wrong email, and it was just given to me just a few weeks ago. That was the delay in receiving it.
Okay. My only concern is that the pool is open already, and we budget in anticipation that the contract is going to be same as the prior year, but if we budget the same amount for next year and then we get a contract renewal in April that's a different amount, well, we've already budgeted or maybe under budgeted, so it would be nice if we could maybe get some sort of correspondence from them during budget season to indicate whether or not the upcoming contract is going to be the same as this year, if there's anticipated increases in the contract, that we know that during budget time. If there's some sort of chemical shortage or something that we don't know about, we could get ourselves into a bind. So I just wanted to mention that.
I think that's a valid point with just operating costs, and maybe there's less pools operating, you know, that kind of thing. So,
Yep.
yeah, great question, great point.
Otherwise, I have no concern.
All right. Okay, thank you, Amy Jo.
Thank you.
Okay, we are on number 9, wastewater treatment plant roof repair expenditure ratification. We have John on the phone, and we have Kyle going to lead this one off for us this evening. Kyle?
Yeah, so as we went through paying some of the bills this year in the last couple of months, we discovered a problem in one of the contracts that we presented last fall. Last October, we presented 4 roofs at the wastewater treatment plant that needed repair, and we really presented, the memo from staff presented 2 options, which was really a way to break up the expenses of all 4 buildings over the course of 2 years to use budget capacity from last year and then budget for this year for the remaining work. And that was presented to the council, and the council approved the 3 roofs at $80,600 for the 2019 work. The way the contract was written, it had all 4 roofs on there. It was just a difference in cost on if you did it in 2019 or 20. And what was, I think missed in the process is that by signing the contract for the $80,600 in 2019, the contract also had the remaining work to be done at another time. So really, what we missed was getting the approval and bringing the approval back to the council for the remaining $89,430. It was included in the budget, but the contract had already been signed and presented by staff. So it was a little bit of an error in process, and I think there's ways that we can make sure this doesn't happen again. I think the intent of the council was to do this work anyways, and the budget reflects that. But ultimately, we need that approval for that work that was already done in the previous months.
I do remember that contract and stating that we were going to do one previous to the other, so I understand how this kind of got jumbled up. It's concerning, but I think that you've laid out a good plan to sort of try to prevent this type of error from happening again, so I appreciate that. Is there any comments or questions from anybody at this time about Trina?
Oh, yeah, I also more or less remember this. And I definitely felt like we had it separate on purpose since it was going to be different years, but it does look like you got a little bit mixed up.
The contract itself, I mean, we had separated essentially the line items, but the contract itself was separated, so then it didn't make its way back around to come back across the desk here, so. But as long as, I think in this case, we had already budgeted for these things, and obviously that's fantastic, but, just obviously we want to try as much as possible for this type of scenario not to happen, especially if it's something that we may not have physically budgeted for. We could be in a really sticky situation, but it's not. I'm happy that city staff caught this and that they have a plan to amend it, so, in the future. Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Okay, number 10 is the 2021 budget process. So last year I went through my first budget process. Can't believe it's already back to being that time again. Seems like yesterday. But, this is a process that we have a lot of new members of council, and I really appreciate Kyle taking the time to sort of, lay out this timeline for us now and give us the opportunity to give feedback. So, Kyle, thank you. Did you, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you had any more to add. So essentially, this is my proposed method of working through the budget. It's worked for me in other communities. The benefit, I think, is that it really allows me and the department heads to work closely together to prioritize. It's kind of an old tagline, but budgets are about priorities, and your priorities are where your money goes. And so this allows me to take a more global look across departments and try to make sure that we're addressing the big priorities, and we're going to talk hopefully in 2 weeks about those priorities and what the council really wants to emphasize and lay out as their goals for things they want to accomplish, capital expenditures they might want to make, and also where they're thinking as far as levy. And if they're looking for no levy increases, minor levy increases, just matching the net new construction, those are all important things that you're elected to help set those policies. So as I view this, it allows me to work with the department heads to get you a product that's already sort of pre-vetted in some ways, and allows a lot of the more basic juggling to go on, and present you with something that you can evaluate in a semi-final format. And you can see, based on the feedback you've given and weighing the different departments and their different priorities, what I've come up with to try to achieve those goals. And we also have the opportunity then to lay out to you what we didn't achieve, if there were goals we didn't achieve, or what different departments might have asked for but weren't able to fit into the budget. And then your decisions are sort of a finite amount. It's not mountains and mountains of minutia about pencils and things like that. It's a few decision points where you really get to weigh the priorities and figure out if you want to pick one priority over another, or potentially increase the budget to achieve all the priorities. But I think it should result in something that's more usable to you, and hopefully eliminate the need for multiple, very long, very detailed meetings where we go through, line by line sometimes. So that would be my proposal. You would first be seeing a sort of a draft budget in September, and we would continue working on it, sometimes every meeting, giving little updates on, we now have this number, and this is the change we've got. And then by the time you get to November, we're hopefully adopting the budget with a fallback date of December 1st, if there's still final tweaks that we need before adopting it.
Trina?
Oh, my goodness, this proposal seems so early and efficient. I can hardly believe it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think 100% in on that.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. That sounds like a very efficient process. And like I said, I really appreciate you giving us a heads up on this. I know, for me, it was, the budget process last year was a bit overwhelming. However, it was my first budget process too, so I also don't have anything to compare it to. But I definitely see that there was room to sort of zero in on the real issues and the real priorities and what we want to weigh back and forth. So that sounds good to me. Anybody else? Oh, I thought you were reaching for Ian.
I think one of my favorite things about this, let alone, aside from it being, an actual process and it being much more efficient, I think having everyone's input, getting something basic, kind of drafted up, but then not just what the budget we're doing, but also what we're not doing, so that we can weigh those pros and cons better, because I think during the budget season last time around, especially when we amended it, a lot of people didn't really understand what we could still have done or not have done, and just thought we had to approve this specific thing, and I think this will help avoid that a lot. So thank you very much.
Anybody else? Mayor Tom?
I don't know that there's any specific action that we need to take on this, but it's basically just kind of outlining the process, procedure, timeline, et cetera. Is that correct, Kyle?
Correct. I'd be bringing it back to the next meeting for formal adoption, and in the meantime, I'm going to be preparing some of the documents to go out to department heads, and then this will be the process that they live by as well as we all live by, and we'll be having a conversation as well. So it's good to start thinking about those things. We will probably talk in 2 weeks about some of those things like net new construction, and if you haven't been on the council before, it's an important term that you might not know what it even means. So we're going to go through a lot of those things and think about priorities and wages and a lot of different things that we can try to incorporate then in that final version. So between now and 2 weeks from now, thinking a little bit about what goals you might have, and then I'll be looking for sort of adopting the process, but I'll be taking away from that the goals that we talk about as well.
Great. Thanks, Kyle. This will be the 8th budget that I work on this fall, and I really appreciate the way that you've kind of laid out the expectations, not just for the council's benefit, but as an administrator, I think there's been a lot of things that have changed over the years, and last fall wasn't a good example to guide us by, with having an interim city administrator and a former finance director try to get us through that. I mean, it wasn't normal last year by any means, but I appreciate just kind of framing this up so we know what you have to deal with on the other side with the department heads, managers, that everyone kind of has the same set of goals by the time we get through all of this. So thanks again, Kyle.
All right.
Alder Piper, I would just like to say that never having been through a budget, this looks great, but I have no way of comparing this to what was there. So this could be something that doesn't work. I have no clue, but I'm sure it's great, but I don't know what the past was.
As a reference point, I'll tell you, one of the first budgets I participated in, there was a total of 13 meetings just for the budget.
I think
which is very overwhelming when you're dealing with regular city business and all of those extra meetings, and still really not a good understanding of what was happening on the other side or why we were having that conversation. So I think this is definite progress. Yeah,
I would agree.
I just want to say I have faith in Kyle.
Great.
I appreciate it. It's not earned yet, so these are goals.
These are
And,
goals.
Let's see if I can meet them. I'm confident that between the staff and myself, we can meet the goals.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay. Number 11 is consider and discuss the DPW Administrative Assistant job description. I believe that we have Zach Naven from the DPW with us via teleconference. Hi, Zach. Oh, we've got to unmute him. Hi, Zach. Can you hear us? Oh. I think you keep unmuting him. There we go. Okay, can you hear us now? Okay, great. Yes, thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. So as many of you know, the DPW admin, Carolyn Fredericks, did leave the department in late May to step back into her interior design career. So that's left us without that position since the end of May. My staff has been great about helping out, along with Amy Jo, helping kind of cover that, but it's definitely starting to show now that Amy Jo is busy again with the pool that it needs to get this position filled again. So Pamela and I did work on getting the job description updated and getting that ready. You know, we also looked at the wage range in comparison with some other hirings going on in both the private and public sector for a position like this, and got us to where we're at. There aren't any huge changes in duties that we made. A lot of it was just kind of cleanup. I would like this new individual to start doing some more analysis work for the department. The department does collect a lot of good data, and it's unfortunately not used to its full potential, as there's just no one that has the time to kind of dig through it all. I'd also like them to start getting more involved in the Hillside Cemetery to help out with the operation of that. And of course, whenever possible, help out Amy Jo with anything that she needs help with. Those are kind of some of the big things that I wanted to hit on there. But I'm also looking for a new set of eyes to come in and see where they can help improve the department, because I think there's plenty of individuals out there that will come in with a fresh set of eyes and perspective and help move the department forward.
Thanks, Zach. Hopefully, you guys have had the time to kind of look this over. Just a long list of requirements and responsibilities, but so I guess, I mean, thanks, Zach. I think you did a pretty nice job of putting this together.
That credit goes to Pamela.
Okay, thanks, Pamela. Excellent job. Is there any questions immediately on the job description itself? How long do we plan to, do we plan to post this for? Is there a time period? So
so this will move forward to the July 21st meeting for final approval, and we will look at posting it sometime shortly after that. Unfortunately, the way it works out is if we were to kind of post it for like a 2-week period right afterwards, it would have, the dates would land to where this individual would be starting on the week that I'm supposed to be out on vacation. So the plan would be for them to start in mid-September when I return from vacation.
Okay. Questions, concerns? Nobody? No, I think the wage range is good. I think everything actually looks really good. I don't have any questions or concerns, and I'm not seeing any from council. So, all right, okay to post this, and hopefully we find some good candidates out there. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Okay. And then as number 12, we have discussed the Christopher Columbus statue. I'm not sure if we had this necessarily as a placeholder or because we don't have any information, I guess, in the packet. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this was allowed for committee of the whole discussion if necessary on this topic. So if there's no more discussion necessary, you would not need to bring this up.
I think at this time, I mean, with the vote that we had this evening, I think we would need more information really to have a productive discussion. You know, obviously the question is what comes next, what happens next, and I think that that we don't have enough information to really discuss that at this moment. Ian?
I think the only thing is that like our next big decision is going to be where the statue goes and what happens. So I think if like you want to come up with maybe a online posting so that we can get, you know, like letters of intent and things of that nature from people, if we can, you know, if we can start developing that so that during our next meeting we have something to discuss, if that makes sense.
Yep. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say if there is a desire to have more information about what to do next, a little guidance on, you know, what direction you'd like us to explore. It doesn't have to be one, could be a couple, to bring back some details about the different processes, and then you would have something maybe to help pick and choose exactly what you would like staff to do.
Trina?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. We really need options at this time. I don't think we have anything we can truly discuss and any direction we could choose at this time. We need information and collection of names and organizations for possible options for the statue.
Alder Piper?
Alder Piper here. Perhaps this falls under the category of further discussion, but I think probably one of the main key points or talking points would be the timeline. You know, we voted here today to remove the statue, but when will this occur? I guess that's, you know, I mean, all the other points are valid, but, you know, we should probably come up with a specified date.
Sure. I also think at this time, the city staff needs time to kind of figure out when that's feasible and when and how we're going to achieve that. Mayor Tome.
I think Kyle did assemble some options and left them at your desk here. Potential actions related to the Christopher Columbus statue, and I think now that there's been a vote, I kind of, you know, eliminate some discussions on here, but I think that kind of gives some framework. I am concerned that if we don't have at least some conversation this evening about this, that staff is going to be waiting for direction, and staff needs to be directed on how to do that. Is the statue going to be removed tomorrow, or are we going to wait for 2 weeks to have another meeting and have another discussion? I think there are some things that can be decided this evening while we wait for a possible recipient of the statue. I think we got the Knights of Columbus information that was given us tonight, and it sounds like they may be a willing recipient of that, but you need to tell staff that that's something that you want to do so those conversations can occur. I think there are a lot of zoning issues about the statue that no one in the public has talked about yet. There's a lot of details, and I think that the staff's going to need some direction from the council on what we can do now, what we're ready for now, and what we're not ready for at this point. So hopefully we could at least go over some of these and see if there's some consensus among the council at this point tonight.
Kyle?
Just so that I'm clear and there's no missteps here and something gets removed that you don't want removed, the motion as I understand it is that the council has stated that the statue can be removed and then stored until its future is decided. Okay. If there's a specific time frame, we'll definitely need to know that, because if we don't have a time frame saying, yeah, within 2-3 months we'd like to see that happen, we're going to start making details, and it could move at any time if there's no information to say you don't want it to move, because that was the direction we have in the motion, was to remove it and store it.
I guess I personally didn't think that we would give you an exact date that it needs to be moved by. So I guess I'm confused at the
I guess my point was, we could start on this tomorrow, and Zach is gonna be kind of spearheading that project. And if there's a desire to do some RFP process where in 2 to 3 weeks, we evaluate them and then they get it from where it is, that's not gonna match if I direct Zach to take it. So I just don't wanna remove the statue and store it and then find out that wasn't really what we all wanted to do, so.
I'm okay with the removal and
Okay.
storing. At any given time that DPW is able to do it. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but that is how I feel it. Ian?
And so, I mean, that was the intent of my motion, was to have it removed at the earliest possible time. I think it needs to happen as quickly as possible, whether that's the DPW being able to just take care of it for us right away, or if we have to hire it out, what has to happen. But I think that's something that the staff needs to work on, and as soon as we can get it done, it should get done. I think we already voted to have it removed, so I don't think as far as I'm concerned, I don't think another vote or action has to be taken by the council for it to be removed. I think it's up to staff to figure out, what's the best way to get it removed and as quickly as possible, for multiple reasons, just to, start making this not go away, but, less contentious, and to, again, protect the statue for whatever future use we might be able to have for it. If it stays there, it could get damaged.
Trina?
Yeah, I suppose I'm also leaning towards the option 3A, which is the interim storage until a resolution determined. I would want to find it a new home relatively quickly, but I don't want to have to wait a month or two in the meantime. On the other hand, if there is a viable option for a location within the next 2 weeks, then I would rather not move it twice in that short of a time. But I think we probably do need the time, so it probably needs to go into storage for a bit.
Alder Adams?
Alder Adams. So would another option be, so we take it to the interim storage and then we find somebody that wants to take it. Would we be able to say, that's fine, but you have to pay to move it from point A to point B? Would that be something that we could do?
Technically, I think we could do that. I'm looking to Kyle.
So we're not paying to move it twice. We're just moving it into storage, and then if somebody wants it, they pay for it to move it.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna explore maybe a request for proposals or something like that, and try to evaluate a group that is proposing reusing the statue in some kind of way, and you would then have the ability to, encourage them to submit a proposal that included covering some of those costs. There was questions during this process about the $5,000 being given to the city from the Quincentennial Fund. And at the end of May, that fund had $3,624.19. So, I think that was given with the statute. They're not legally linked, so we wouldn't have to pair those two together. But we could identify that as a source to cover some of our costs in moving it, and there should still be enough room in that, I would hope, to move it to its final destination in a safe way.
Ian?
That sounds like an ideal situation to me, is just move it, have DPW, or if DPW isn't the best way to get it done, I mean, you and Zach and everyone else will be able to make those determinations better than us anyway, and just have it happen as soon as possible, use the fund to pay for it, or we can retroactively refund ourselves from the fund. I'm guessing is probably easier, whatever works, but those things better. I say just go for it. We already voted to have it removed and stored, so I would say just have the staff accomplish it as quickly as possible, and then come up with, whether they're letters of intent, however we decide on where it goes. And getting someone to pay to take it would be awesome and ideal, but I would not eliminate it. If it cost us money to have it go to the best place, I would still personally go that route, but whatever works.
Mayor Tom.
I think that if the money that was donated along with it, there may be no legal attachment to it, but I think if someone is willing to take it, put it on public property, and it meets the criteria that everyone's trying to achieve here, that the fund should go with the statue. If there's some expenses they have to incur by taking it from the city, I don't know legally if there needs to be any agreement that we're going to have to sign to transfer this asset from a city piece of property to a privately owned piece of property. It should go through some sort of process to at least memorialize that, is my assumption. I think the fund should go with it as well to encourage someone that wants to maintain this and put it somewhere as well, because the money was given to us to maintain it, which didn't happen. But I do think that we need to make things somewhat formal. So I think the fund should go with it, and also kind of proactively dealing with anybody who is willing to take it, start that conversation as early as possible, because I know a lot of people have told me that, so-and-so wants it in their backyard and so-and-so will put it on their business. There are a lot of zoning implications that no one is talking about. And so I think we kind of need to get through that part, and people need to understand here's where it likely will go, or here's where it likely cannot go. And I think once you get through that, then we find out that there's probably only a few places in town where it could happen if it's within the city limits. But I think that we need to let staff know that you guys are willing to have them go do that proactively if need be. So.
Yep. I also agree that the money should go with the statue. I think that makes sense.
Do you know of the two other things that were mentioned in the quitclaim deed? There were 2 ribbons associated with NASA. I don't know if the city has possession of those or if they've been donated since. Paul, do you know anything about that?
I do not know anything specifically. I assume, just because of how everything transpired, that they are probably at the museum somewhere. That's all that I can think of, and I have no basis for that except for how it all played out.
Okay.
So I don't think they ever made it into City Hall or anything like that.
Okay. I just thought if we're going through this process, it's a good time to check to see if that donation is somewhere here or whether the Historical Society took possession of that or not. So everything kind of gets cleaned up at the same time and we don't leave a few remnants of that hanging out.
Trina, you had your light on?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree that I feel that whatever remnants of the statue maintenance monies that were donated should go with the statue. I feel like that's only right.
McCabe?
I agree with that sentiment also, the money going with the statue.
Ron's nodding his head. Okay. Kyle, do you think you have the direction that you need? Do you have any questions?
I think so. So we're going to be trying to identify some names and some organizations that might be willing to take it, develop basically some options. But we're going to continue moving forward on the one track of removal while we prepare and give options for the ultimate disposal.
Mayor Tom?
Do you know if DPW has the ability to remove it from your understanding?
I don't yet.
Okay.
If I recall right, it's a 9-foot tall statue, 14 feet with the sword. But Zach is going to be working on that. And we will find a way to overcome any obstacles. And if they're insurmountable, we'll be back talking about this in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That is our last item on this evening's agenda. So with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
Alder Gray moves to adjourn.
Alderperson seconds that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you.